Um, what do you want to open with? I guess.
Probably C9 versus TL. It just happened, right?
Okay. Yeah, that's actually it was a pretty good game actually. Hot take is I think C9 is definitely looking like the number 2 team in the league. They looked really clean.
Oh wow, I was gonna say they're the best team in the league.
Really? Okay. I
Yeah,
mean, that's fair too. It's hard to not give FlyQuest the nod just because they're 4-0, but like yeah, if you're gonna look at just how they played today, this is also a different topic, but I absolutely hate best of ones because you don't actually get a
that's a
lot of
topic.
information.
Yeah, that's one of the topics for
like,
today.
I was actually talking to my girlfriend about that match when TL drafted Callista. I was like, all right, now they just 50-50 this game. If they don't get a massive lead, it's over. If they win hard, it's over. Like it doesn't give a lot of information as like how good the team actually is. Like
Yeah, I guess we can actually put it in the perspective of Team Liquid. So I might
yeah.
take the Team Liquid side, but
Okay.
with the C9 versus Team Liquid game, are you worried about what's happening with Team Liquid at all?
Worried in the sense of I don't think they're top two. Because I mean, there's obviously the discussion around whether or not Spawn is integral to this team actually doing well. Um, like being there in person, whatever. But I just think that TL has had just so much shakiness this entire year, and they have such moments of like I don't know what's going on, and they also have moments where they look like TL, right? So I think the inconsistency is odd to me because like this team is usually one of the kind of benchmarks for consistent performance across a year, and it's been very up and down, which is odd.
I think part of that can be the fact that we are being tested on so many different things at every aspect. Like a big part is we're on live patch, which
Mhm.
last year obviously everybody was like excited about, but people kind of forgot about that. And so what ends up happening is like a
Yeah.
champion will come out, they'll play that, and then a micro patch will come like on Wednesday, and then they're
Mhm.
playing on Saturday or come out Thursday, right? And then
Right.
they have to practice it for 2 days, or maybe they spent the entire week practicing it, and all of a sudden that's not useful. And like Team Liquid were the team that were like, we're gonna play the same matchup, we're gonna pick the Tristana Ezreal, we're going or Corki, whatever it is in the mid lane. We're going to play the same matchups over and over and over and over, and we're going to be so good at knowing what our champions can do. And like, well, lane swaps got changed, and in a couple weeks, guess what? Like all of the objectives are changing. Otacon is changing. Grubs are changing. Herald timing.
It's
Everything's changing.
I can't believe they're changing the grub count. Like this is actually such a problem for competitive professional like just parity, like just competitiveness, right? Like this actually favors teams that aren't as prepared. Like it's actually a disservice to teams that put a lot of the time in. So I don't know. I have very mixed feelings about like major changes like this mid season. Um, yeah, it's
Yeah.
like it's like the designers, the balance team on the solo queue side, and the whoever thinks about pro competitive viability is like they're just not considering both factors. And it used to be like, oh, solo queue kind of sucks when they buff it around or they buff or nerf around pro. But at the same time, like that has to be the way it is because if you don't do that and we're on live patch, the pros are gonna find stuff that's just so broken and there's no way to know that beforehand. I'm not, and it's exacerbated by the best of one situation. So
Yeah, it felt like in 2015 they made these changes to make things exciting at Worlds, and they're like, okay, maybe that wasn't the best for competitive integrity, and they moved away from things like that. And I think
yeah,
now they just don't care as much about pro play because, well, it doesn't seem like it's a very financially successful model for Riot. It seems like every region is bleeding.
true,
Some regions more than others. So they're like, well, if it doesn't matter, we're just going to bring more people to play the game rather than focusing on pro play. I could be
sure.
reading into it, but that it does feel like they're
No, I agree. I
stepping
agree. I
back
think if
from.
the yeah, if the philosophy behind balance has shifted now to what is enjoyable in solo queue versus what's competitively balanced in pro play, then it's going to lead to a lot of other issues in pro play, obviously. But again, if there was best of three, I think it would kind of be minimized a little bit, really, at least marginalized to like just okay, one map might or one of the games might feel very sort of like, oh, why do we let this comp through? And then after that, you kind of balance it out. But right now, it just feels like because it's best of one, it's like, why would you experiment at all with a comp? Like, especially in a game like, like against C9, where this is actually kind of a fight for first here.
Yeah, I don't think, at least from my perspective, I don't really think it's a worrying trend for Team Liquid. I know people are going to talk a lot about the two, like the substitutions, the like switching out
Mhm.
jungle and mid and whatnot, and like feel worried about Team Liquid. But I feel like if you're Team Liquid, you're playing the long game. You're not worried about your day to day like performance. You're not worried if you lose to Cloud9, if you lose to 100 Thieves. Well, they always beat 100 Thieves, but if you lose to like FlyQuest or whatnot, I don't think they're necessarily worried about that. I think they're thinking like, hey, we've won a bunch of times. We know how to win. Can we work past our problems? So I don't really think people should be as worried about Team Liquid as like the fan base is, and like calling for people's heads like they've been
Yeah.
doing for UMT and now APA for some reason. But I think that on the on the global sense from Riot Games, the way that they are moving the game this year is definitely a nerf to Team Liquid. The fact that things keep changing, where when Team Liquid is like, we are going to figure out the most optimal play, them and Gen G. Like I think this is such a big nerf to Gen G. And a huge
Yeah.
buff to like Hanwha Life. Because Hanwha Life, like they have Peanut, but they're very creative. They'll do stuff. They have like Zeka and they have like Zeus. Whereas Gen G, they have Chovy. Chovy plays the same matchup 750 times a day, knows exactly when to press every single button and every pot and everything, and then like
Yeah.
wins every matchup because he knows it. And then Riot is like, oh, here's some new matchups. And he's like, well, I don't have the competitive edge anymore that I just spent the last 3 months building. And same thing for Team Liquid. Like it's a worrying trend from Riot's side, but I don't think necessarily from Team Liquid.
Sure. That's actually a good way to view it, is that if we're sort of devaluing domestic championships a bit, right? I do think they are devalued. You've created a third split. You are dropping the overall league down to 6 teams. Like, there's no way winning a domestic championship this year feels the same as winning it 4 years ago. Like, in my opinion, it's just not even the same level of like competitiveness, the same level of competition between all the teams. There's not as many games played. I mean, it's just overall feels like a lesser title than winning like summer of 2020, right? Or 2018. Can't even say 2020 because that one has
Because
also
COVID,
got an
yeah.
asterisk. Like, um, but if Team Liquid is looking at just worlds contention, right? Like, we want to be strong for worlds. And yeah, this is not that worrying. It's a best of one. It's mostly for seeding. Once we get into playoffs, best of threes, then it actually really matters. Like, it sort of feels like even with 6 teams in the league, right? There's not really 6 teams, there's 4 teams. And then there's DSG Dig, like just duking it out at the bottom with who can get the first win on the season.
We'll find out tomorrow, by the way. That's going to be one of our predictions.
Yeah, this is gonna be. I know this. I knew we were gonna talk about that, but this is like I'm so hyped for tomorrow actually because of that. More so than probably any other matchup. This. I mean, I was kind of hyped for the C9TL, but then that kind of just turned into sort of a bit of a stomp. Like, that wasn't even close. And now I'm like, okay, well, I'm really hyped for the DSG Dig match. Not only is it the toilet bowl, right? Like the battle for last, but it's actually one of the only like 2 team rivalry things this season that I think is legitimate. Like, there's legitimate dislike between these two teams, which I'm all about. Like, so there's some hype there, which is hard to find right now in the current state of LTA.
Yeah, I think also like teams have not done a very good job by like hyping up their matchups. I think
Yeah,
like the fact
I
that
would love,
C9 were playing Team Liquid, it
yeah,
kind of flew under the
that
radar a little
should
bit.
yeah, that should have been that used to be the matchup of the season every time, like TL
Yeah.
and Team Liquid. They could have had a hype video of like, look at how many championships we both have. Like, it's like 5-4. Like, it's actually such a good storyline every year, and they're both competitive. But yeah, it just kind of, there's nothing put out about it. There's no content. There was no like real banter between the teams or like the players. Just kind of felt like, all right, it's another week of us playing TL. And yeah, I don't know. I think that could have been hyped up more. And I know Riot is struggling right now with like, what do we do, like, content wise? What do we do to kind of promote the league better? I did like the sort of lean into the recent fan service with the LTA fan art that they were kind of putting on broadcast and everything. I thought that was really cool, that here's an organic project that fans have put together, and LTA is actually trying to hype it up a bit, right? They were putting it on broadcast, they're giving players cards, physically printing this stuff out for them. Like, that's really good. I think that encourages more fans to try to develop more content on their own and like put stuff out for LTA. But at some level too, orgs have to get in on this. Like, they have to be able to like create narratives and storylines with each other. So I am hyped for tomorrow's matchup, but it's just kind of like I said this was going to happen when they announced the changes for this season in terms of format. Was
Mhm.
that once we've gotten a taste of best of three, how can we ever go back and not have it feel so much worse? If we had never gotten the BO3 fearless in the kickoff split, I don't think we would have felt this bad about it now. But going from last season to this season and getting that BO3 and then going back to the best of ones, it just feels like, dude, I do not care week to week like to see a BO1. Like it feels so bad.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely. I actually was talking to Sayus, and he was like, "Yeah, it
Mm.
kind of sucks because I still haven't played a best of three, like a fearless game, because like I didn't play in split one, and then split
Right.
two comes around, and we still haven't." So he was like, "I was happy that they changed the format because otherwise I wouldn't have played at all like any fearless games."
Yeah. Yeah. It also, again, it just kind of like I know it's for seeding and all that, but it kind of does benefit certain teams more than others, which has always been the case. But when it was BO1 and it was like round robin over a whole half a year, that sort of gets minimized a bit, right? Like the fluky games get washed away by the just volume of times you're going to play other people. So it's just hard right now because it's like each of these teams basically has one shot or two shots at anybody, and that's it. Like, um, yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know how teams are even drafting creatively right now because they're just gonna be like, if it matters to win, we have to sort of just draft what we think is the best comp. And if it doesn't matter that much, then we can experiment a bit, which might be a kind of a philosophical thing that TL is looking at. Like, well, let's just try to pick something that we think we want to try. And if they're gonna leave Callista open B1, we'll take it. But like, I don't know. Like that seems sort of bait from C9 actually. Like they knew they were gonna grab Callista, I guess. You
Yeah, I
play
mean that's
Ezreal
exactly
and
what
kind of
Reaper
just walk
said. He
away.
was like, "Oh yeah, we
Yeah.
knew," and Vulcan, he was like, "We knew they were gonna pick it." Actually, Reaper was like,
Yeah.
"There's 50-50." It was like they either go with the Kalista or they do option B. I'm not gonna say what it is, but we were prepared for both. And then when they went Kalista, we were like, "Okay, well, GG."
Yeah, drafted going this way. And then Vulcan, like hot take, might just be the best bard in the West. Like this guy's so good on that champion.
Yeah, even when he was like slumping, whenever you get Bard, like
Yeah.
I remember there was a game, I think it was still when they had JoJo Pune, and he was like ulting and he was like missing his like he was doing really really bad ults, but then even in that game he was able to like get better ults and then he made fun of himself on Twitter. But yeah, his
Yeah,
Bard
yeah.
is really good.
He's gotten better with it. Someone in chat said there's rage bait in your stream. What rage bait?
No, so I mentioned like people how I thought like calling for APA's head for some reason, and he was like, "What do you mean
Oh,
for some
yeah.
reason?" And then he mentioned like some substitutes that Team Liquid could do, and I was like, "Dude, they would be so lost in tier one."
No,
And
I mean the fact that article or that interview came out with all these other mid laners saying APA is probably a top 4 mid laner. I mean, it says a lot. He's not a bad mid laner, and you're not. Who are you going to replace him with right now? Like, there's no one who could step in and be better than APA in that team.
apparently Toasty. That's what Zaddy's saying.
No, dude. No, dude. And I love Toasty. I love NACL. There's no way Toasty's coming into tier one and doing like anywhere close to what APA is doing. It's like AP. You got people forget that APA was in tier two doing like smashing tier two, came in and struggled. Like this is just the echelon difference between tier two, tier one. Like it's not the same. There's so many mistakes that they can get away with in tier two that are not gonna get they're just gonna get punished.
Yeah, I actually talked to APA, and he said how like right now they're super focused. He's super focused on making his Azir work, right? He's like putting a lot of effort to improve his Azir,
Yeah.
which like you can see that he's like not as comfortable on Azir as example Tristana, which we saw last year, or
Mhm,
Nico or something
mhm.
like that. So like give him time. I think just whenever a team tries to play to like improve on their pain points, it's gonna look ugly. But the idea
Right.
is it's gonna look ugly so that it looks pretty later.
Right. No, and I that's one thing I respect about APA a lot is that he's one of those players that will put in the work and make it uncomfortable for himself. He will go in solo queue and blind pick his ear like 10 times in a row and doesn't care. Like he's going to put in that level of effort, which is better than a lot of mid laners, I can say. Like, and honestly, like I know mid laners who struggle on certain champions, and even though it's something they need to work on, they will go an entire day of solo queue without playing it because it's not a good angle for it. And it's like you kind of just have to play the champion. There's no way around it.
That's like me.
Um,
I'm like a Briar
yeah.
one trick, and I'm playing on a team. We're scrimming, and then they're like, my coach is like, "Dude, you need to start playing other champions." And then I play other champions, I lose. I'm like, I'm going back to Briar. I don't want to demote.
Yeah, I'm on like my guy on Swain. I'm like, if I just played Swain here, I probably would be better. Even though it's a horrible game for it, like I should have just done it because I'm just so much comfier on it. Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
but yeah, and Guy in chat also said I would great choice for Shopify Rebellion. I do think, I mean, okay, obviously I think if APA went to Shopify, it'd be an upgrade over Palafox right now. I think Shopify is just struggling a little bit, but like at the same time, like you can't say APA is not good for TL with where they're at. Like he's not the main problem. I think TL is just
Yeah.
disjointed a little bit.
I think
They're
actually
not.
APA to Shopify sounds really interesting just because one of the things that we struggle with is like we're overgrouping, dropping sideways, and I think APA like really from his time at MSI and EWC really learned how to like play the side lanes and how to like
Mhm.
spread the map out, and I think that's something Shopify might actually need. So I can see it.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll
Yeah.
happen,
Yeah.
but
Speaking of Shopify, like Fudge looked pretty solid today.
yeah, and against and his Nard game against
Yeah.
FlyQuest, like 2 games in a row where he's playing good.
Yeah. Yeah. I've
Pretty-
always, Fudge is he's another similar type of player, right? Like on C9 near the end, people were like, get rid of this guy, he's garbage. And it's like, you just forget the first 2 years where you had him, like, where he was the best top laner in the league. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's fan opinion on a lot of these people is just so like short term. Always like, what did you do last week?
Yeah.
Yeah, Saint has been, another Donna Raven mentioned Saint. I do think Saint's very good.
I think
Saint
our
has
mid
really
lane pool is
impressed
actually
me.
quite good this year. Like, I know
Yeah.
we got a bunch of like,
Yeah.
Kaney and Saint and whatnot, like a
Mhm,
bunch of
mhm.
Koreans, but mid lane has been pretty competitive.
Yeah, yeah. Loki has looked really
Low-key, yeah.
solid. Yeah, I do think this is sort of like it's almost like we've gone back to like 2018 where it's like the import that you want is the Korean mid laner,
Yeah.
and from there it's like NA jungler, and it's kind of fallen
Wait,
back a
we
little
only have
bit.
2 NA mid laners and 6 Korean mid laners.
Yeah,
Dang.
yeah. Well, we lost our guy Jojo, so
Yeah.
unfortunate. I do think actually having worked a lot in tier 2 now and tier 3 and talked to a lot of players, watched a lot of players, mid in North America is just weak. Like it's very weak, even at the tier 2 level. When I was kind of putting my roster together, it was very hard to find a group of mid laners to compare. Oh shoot, hold on. That was actually one of the hardest roles to like find players for that were at kind of a comparable level. Mid lane's just one of the hardest, I think, roles to find solid players in NA right now.
Oh wow.
There's not a lot of good mids coming up, honestly. Like it's a smaller pool than you would see in jungle, or you would see in ADC, or you'd see in top lane even.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like the cause or the result, because it could be like, oh, everybody just imports their mid laner, so why don't I do what Busio did and role swap to support? Or is it like we don't have good mid laners, therefore we're importing? I don't know like which came first, but could be a bit of both.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, that's true. That actually there was the reverse effect of that too, where a lot of mid laners swapped over to support like a few years ago because they realized, well, most of these LCS teams are going to import a mid. You're better off switching role swapping to support, and because support was really weak back then, and so you had better odds of getting into tier 2, tier 1 if you played support as an NA
Yeah.
player.
Oh wait,
So.
Abadage. I'm sorry. So we have 5 Koreans,
Oh
1
man,
European, and then 2 North Americans. Okay,
Abadage, dude. Like
still an import, but not Korean technically.
I don't know what's going on with Abadage. Like, I feel like I don't know if he's mental boomed or like he's been making some just
Yeah.
horrible decisions. I feel like every single game, like
I
every
asked
game,
who
he makes.
he like in the most PG way I could think of, like what the hell is going on with Abadage, and he was like, he's a very confidence based player, and we may not have a
Yeah.
lot of confidence right now. So
Mm. Yeah, but some of it's just like it feels in because you're like, I get you're confident, but you're like the Rise TP to the Rise ult into the bear. Like, dude, you had no vision on anything there. You just went in. Like, that's crazy. It's felt very, very just all over the place with him, and it feels bad, because I actually do think that like that team on paper should be doing better and like should be gelling, and every week it just looks like they sort of get leads and just throw everything. Like, I don't know. You can definitely see the difference between like DSG and Dig and the other teams, but at least DSG starting to like show signs of like, okay, early game they're starting to look better. I do think that they're putting some stuff together. Their laning has gotten a little bit better. XC is trying to do stuff, but it's just hard. It's again like with less teams in the league, they're constantly going to have to play against the top 4 over and over. So
yeah.
tomorrow's going to be the real test. If you can't beat Dig I don't know.
We might as well go into it. What's your prediction between Dig and
I like DSG.
really?
Yeah, I like DSG over Dig.
I thought we saw some pretty good stuff from Dig today. Like, I I,
Yep.
I also talked to Surdy today. I talked to every single team except for FlyQuest. I haven't gotten a
Mhm.
FlyQuest since like last year. Um, so, but yeah, I talked to Surdy, and he mentioned how like they've been focusing on their early game, and they're
Mhm.
consistently getting early game leads, even in scrims, even against Cloud9. It's
Mhm.
just their mid to late game, they have no sense of like what objectives they should take or like how to win the game. They don't know how to win the game, they know how to
Yeah.
get leads. And so they end up throwing every single game. And I just feel like DSG is not the team that will like get you to throw the game. DSG is like the game that is the team that will like also are kind of like Dig, where they might get the lead, but they don't know how to win a game. So it's like
This
two
this
teams that
is
don't know
why
how to win.
yeah, no, this is why this matchup is so hype. It's because they sort of match each other, you know? Like this is actually like one of the closest on paper, one of the closest games that we could possibly have matchup wise, right? You're exactly right. You have two teams that are sort of trying to get better and better, but if you have a team that's bad, just all across the board, just not doing well, what do you focus on? You focus on the early game to try to get some leads to make your decision making easier, right? So they've been focusing probably on laning, they've been focusing on the first 4 levels, and what does jungle pathing look like for the first 2 objectives. So I think both coaches are heavily fixated on proving that, which is why you're seeing these teams do better in the early game. It's the mid to late game where everything kind of falls apart, and that's why I'm like between Shaden and XU, I sort of trust XU more
I
just
agree.
as a whole. I think Shaden can sometimes obviously he has very high ceiling, but sometimes he will just like sort of make a call and they just die. You know, they just go in and like horrible fights and stuff.
Otacon,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, it just like certain calls, I'm just like, God, man, like just you just play this out. Like but then on the same vein, like Abadage, I just can't trust right now. Like I
You look
don't
at the
know what's
carries.
going on.
Like look at you have Abadag and Scary versus
Yeah.
Tomo, who played amazing today. Like he
Dude,
played
Tomo
really
was so
well.
good today. He was
Yeah,
so good.
it's whenever Tomo plays against 100 Thieves, he gets this buff. Like he just
Yeah.
Tomo, and
He
you have
wants
Kaney.
so bad to win. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just think the carries on Dignitas are just better.
Yeah, and that's fair. And it'll be interesting to see Surdy, you know, like I want to see one game where Surdy really just like puts on the like I am the number one rookie drafted out of North America for a reason and just like utterly destroys the lane. Like I just want to see one game where he gets to do that. I would like to see it, but it just hasn't really come together yet. You know, he hasn't really had that performance yet of like, you know, I shit on all these guys in solo queue on a daily basis. Like I want to see
Yeah.
that level.
I mean, he
Um,
had his first 50 minutes were great. He won the Jace versus Sion matchup somehow. He forced the Jace to recall. He
yeah,
got like first move. He ganked mid at 6 with his ulti. Like he had a good 15 minutes. It's just afterwards he was completely lost. And then like Sniper is like up 50 gold, 50 CS, 3k gold because he's just like perma grouping and yeah.
and that's I was actually I was also saying earlier today again to my girlfriend at the match. I'm like, Surdy is just going through the growing pains of what Sniper went through. If you remember Sniper's first year, it was similar. It was like he's this ultra hyped top laner coming in, rookie, and it was his mid to late where everyone's like, dude, this guy has no idea what to do, where to go, like just TPing into random stuff, like walking around in fights. Like it's just it's the rookie issue, right? He's trying to translate solo queue into competitive, and that's gonna take some time. But yeah, I don't know if Dom mentioned that Surdy was ahead at 15, but it's just he hasn't gotten the leads that we expected out of someone who was actually one of the most dominant laners in solo queue for the last 2 years. Like Surdy came in supposedly knowing how to lane very very well. What was supposed to be a
Yeah.
pain point was like translating mid to late, but he hasn't really outlaned a lot of the top mid laner or top laners in the league yet in this last couple months. So I don't know. We haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I mean, like when he played the Scion, the when he played the Jace into Scion, I think it was against Whippo, was it? Like he didn't
Mhm.
get much done, right? Like
No, and
so
you're
that
supposed to punish that. Like,
yeah, he's supposed to be 40 CSL, but like, and then he won today. Today he won the Jace the Scion side of it. So either way, I think you're right. He doesn't have the highs that we saw from Sniper, but he also
right.
like I think he's a little bit smarter than Sniper. Just talking to him, like he watched
Mhm.
he was like I watched every single like LCK game in the past 3 weeks. And
Mhm.
he's like, oh, the move that I did like back then was something that I saw Keen doing. And then he was like, oh, when I ganked mid with my Sion ulti, that was something Doran did versus I can't remember who. And he was like, I saw that and I was like, oh, okay, I can do that. And so he
Mhm.
also said that like lane swaps when he first came in were like so different. He was just like bleeding CS every single game, lane swaps, and like he finally got better at it. And then it's not there anymore. So he's like,
Right, right.
well, you keep
Yeah,
testing me on new
that's
things, like
it's the same thing as APA, right? Like I think that Surdy is one of those players where I really do trust the work ethic and I really do trust his preparation. It's just a matter of like, can he translate it on stage? The other thing is too, this is again from sort of personal experience of working with Surdy and Shaden, is that team, and XU mentioned it in the interview or whatever a few weeks ago, right? Like that team is sort of high volatility personality wise. Like they just have a very, very high volatility level, which can sometimes blow up. So hopefully they've kind of figured that stuff out in the last couple of years. But a few of their players are known for that, like kind of mental booming.
yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see like how coaching staff and all that is handling it. But um, it is a factor. Like if they are ahead and they lose that lead, I can also see them just kind of imploding.
Yeah, but I think in the Dig versus DSG matchup, like if you're just looking at coaching staff, you have on one side Lyra and Rigby, and on the other side you have Mash. Like no
Yeah.
shade to Mash, it's his first split on like an LTA team, and I asked Huhi like again in like a roundabout way of like how is Mash like adapting to not having to coach like an LTA team, and he was like he's learning a lot, which is not what you want from your
Yeah.
head coach. You want your head coach to be like, oh, he came in, he's putting structure and whatnot. It's like it's pretty much the Hui game on DSG. And I asked him
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
how do you like work on improving yourself if you're so focused on like shot calling and helping Scary and helping XU and helping like your top laner and like doing all this stuff and figuring out vision. Like you have so much pressure on yourself. He was like, I wish I knew the answer. I don't know. I don't know. How do I
Yeah.
do
I
this?
mean,
Like,
not knowing is one of the things you don't ever want to hear.
yeah, but
So
yeah.
actually, guy in chat linked this stat page for Surdy's stats, so we can put it up for some context. It looks pretty bad.
Ouch.
His stats right now, he is 0% ahead at 15 minutes in CS. CS differential at 15 is minus 14.2. Gold differential is minus 449. XP minus 840. And first blood victim, 41.7%. That's
Ooh.
some of the worst stats you could possibly have as a top laner right now.
Yeah.
That's a bit rough. And this is just this season. So, yeah, definitely, not what you want to see, and definitely shows kind of what you can kind of feel, right? I didn't know it was that bad, but it's sort of how it feels. Like when you watch how Dig is just playing right now, it doesn't feel like they have very good. Just they don't have stability anywhere. That's the problem. There's not a single lane you can point to be like, at least we're winning here consistently. Like it's all over the place, kind of. Like I guess bot lane, I would try to
I was
focus
about to
that,
say
but like
Tomo Isles are like not a
they're okay
top,
in lane a lot.
but they're
Yeah,
better
but
than Huhi Scary.
yeah, that's another thing too. Scary has been like he's thrown a few leads. There's been a few games where like, oh man, I think Scary's really fed. The one Varus game where he was like
Yeah. Oh my
Giga
god.
fed, and then he just walks into two like random picks. I was like, oh, you can't do this. Like
It reminds me of
they,
Tactical. Like Tactical would always get caught mid. He wouldn't do this. He didn't do this in his rookie year. No, his rookie year he was super disciplined. And then like as soon
yeah,
as he leaves Team Liquid, all of a sudden for some reason he just like is addicted to getting caught in the mid lane, like just walking up for fun. Like no one's around him, no reason to walk up. He was like la 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 la. The solo queue game and
yeah.
just dies. And I was like, oh my god.
You know what? I honestly, I've said this on stream a few times. But I don't think Tactical is that good on any champion except for Tristana. But on Tristana, he's like one of the best ADCs in the league. Like
I thought his Ezreal was pretty good. His Lucian,
it's
honestly,
all right.
last year was like a resurgence. His Lucian was like
Yeah.
so clean. Like again, he would throw every game at the end of it, but like 95% of the game, he was just so good. On like
I
Lucian,
wonder
Ezreal.
if you just have to give him those ADCs that have a get out of jail free card, like the
Yeah.
jump or the blink. Like he just has to have something in case he does something stupid. Like
When he played the TF bot, it was like one of the worst AD carry games of the entire year. Also, like they kind of got it was against FlyQuest, but still.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well let's talk about. So you said C9 might be the best team in the league. I think it's still probably FlyQuest. like, what would you base that on? Because I do think looking at C9's draft today, like it looked like you could copy paste that draft over any point over the last 6 months, and it would have been a C9 draft. You know what I mean? Like you kind of just they picked all the same type of things that they all like. It was very comfort, like in terms of like the style of play they want, the champions. I mean, you could argue that Blabber's Vi isn't the best champion for him, but he's been playing a lot of it. So it's not unfamiliar either. Like his win rate's not the greatest, but it's like, it's I don't know. It just felt like C9 didn't try to do anything today new, and they kind of just went with like, well, we are comfortable with this. TL is trying to do something where they have to kind of win early, and if as long as we play out smart the first 15 minutes, we're probably going to win this game.
Which is why I think C9 is going to beat FlyQuest, is because C9 have the best map movements out of all the teams. Like FlyQuest individually, I think Quad is better than Loki. I think the top lane is like matchup dependent. I think Bwipo can throw certain matchups where like at Thanatos that he's not necessarily comfortable with. And I think in the bot lane, like I would say Masu is playing like better than like Masu Busio are playing better. But I think just in general, the map movements, the like team fight selection.
You didn't talk about Inspired though.
I'll get there. I'm not gonna go against my own point. Come on. I said their laners are better.
Okay.
I think that C9 have very good like selection of like where are we gonna be. Their map movements are so clean right now. I think they have the best macro in NA right now, and I think that their team fight selection is actually really clean. FlyQuest, every single game they've won every single game, and every single game they've taken really bad fights, and they're just like, oh, sorry, we got bored. Like, you don't get bored in an official game. You don't get to do that. You get bored in a scrim. When you get bored on stage, it's called inting. That's like unacceptable.
Yeah.
So like C9 aren't doing that. Sure, they lost the game, but like it was the first game, and like Loki, I asked Reaper, and he was like, yeah, Loki had nerves. It was like his first game back, whatnot.
Sure. Yeah.
But ever since we got comfortable, like they are just very, very clean, very solid. Their macro is great. And what FlyQuest used to have as a strength, which is their macro, is like, and their team fight selection, they were the team that would get the lead ahead. They would do absolutely nothing, force you to push into them. They would even go down like 1, 2, 3K, select the fights that they know they're going to win and win them. And now they're just like taking fights that they aren't going to win. And I think that's like something that they need to work on. And as long as they haven't fixed that, which we saw today, they were taking fights that they shouldn't have. And like, even though they were playing against a team that they pretty much crushed, right? They still like were losing some of these fights, which ideally shouldn't happen. I think Cloud9 is just going to be able to out team fight them because they're going to select better fights.
Okay, that's fair. I can see that. I think part of that is also the problem of like FlyQuest is really experimental right now with draft, and Bwipo's trying to pull out champs every time. They're trying to do things that are creative. That does make it hard because like sometimes even if he's like, I'm comfortable playing, I don't know, Urgot, like into this matchup, right? The other teammates you have may not know exactly how Urgot power spikes, when to do it. Like it's not as comfortable sometimes. But at the same time, I also think that, the one person you didn't mention, which is Inspired, is like, if Inspired basically just hard gaps jungle, which could very likely happen, the game is just, it's sort of doomed. Like he could just take over games. That's the thing, is that right now Inspired is playing where he is so many games this last year, he's just utterly taken over a game and made it impossible for the opponent to even like contest objectives, do anything, because he's just all over the place. So as good as your laning is, sometimes like he just kind of skews that, because then he comes over and basically ruins everything for them. He invades, takes out, kills Blabber on his buff, takes the buff, and then goes and just takes over mid lane as well. So I think FlyQuest as a whole, like you said, individually, I think are really, really strong players, and they probably are better across the board mostly. And Bwipo is sort of that impacts type player where even if he doesn't hard win his lane, a lot of times he's not losing by very much at all. He's kind of just maintaining what it is that he has and understands his win cons very well. I don't see C9 out drafting them for one. At least FlyQuest is willing to draft stuff that on paper will beat C9s or other teams' drafts. Like they're willing to pull out things that don't sort of make sense in meta. But if you look at it it makes sense, right? Like you pull, I forget like what the other pick he had was, that it was like utterly like Olaf. I think it was an Olaf angle that he pulled it and was like, yeah, this just completely ruins the enemy team's draft. Stuff like that. And I don't think C9's willing to do that as much. C9 drafts still, again, like it feels like Reaper comfort picks, C9 comfort picks. Like I wouldn't be surprised to see Renekton tomorrow.
Yeah, or Gnar. I think like here's the thing
Yeah.
about Thanatos is like he's a really good laner, and like
Yeah.
he's like the best laner we have in NA out of like
Yeah.
including like
I'd agree.
all the other
Yeah.
lanes. He's the biggest delta between him and everybody else,
Yeah.
and a lot of times it doesn't translate. Like obviously when they're playing worse teams, it translates, but when they're playing better teams, it might not necessarily translate to
Mhm.
anything. But I just think like even with the draft issue, even with everything, it's like Cloud9, if you just like watch them play the game, you just watch how they're moving, how they're like constantly getting like man advantage, how they're constantly like mixing it up so you don't know where you should be or like what fights you can take and which fights you can't. I
Mhm.
haven't seen Cloud9 play a macro game like this since High back in 2015. Like this is like
No,
a
I
different
mean,
level.
nah, I think 2020. I mean, there's been some very good C9 teams over the last
Not
2
in terms
years
of
that.
macro. It was like in terms of like, hey, we're gonna get a lead early game
I,
and snowball. Like 2020
well,
C9, 5K gold lead on average up 20 minutes. Sure, but like it
that's
wasn't because they
that's
had
what I
clean
mean.
macro.
No, yeah, the 2020 team. That's what I was thinking of. They were closing game. Their average game time was like 18 minutes. It was insane. Like they were so good at closing games. Um, but no, I agree. But I also think that this is an interesting, I guess, development for the C9 Fly, just series over the last, let's say, 5 years, where C9 used to be that team that could take bad fights as well and just outhands people. And I think that's Fly now. I
I
think
agree.
Fly's team fighting looks incredible compared to most other teams in the region right now. They're just playing everything mechanically so much better. And even if it's a bad fight, like Masu, like they're just better at fighting these fights out and understanding what the win con is for that fight. So like if we can kill this one guy, we just win. It doesn't matter.
Honestly, Master reminds me of Peak Ruler. Like he's not at that level,
Yeah.
but like today on the Varus, like the swag where he presses
Yeah.
ghost, doesn't flash, walks in front of the Rakan engage, goes alt, gets the kill, like doesn't even burn his flat.
Yes.
Like I was just like, oh my god, this reminds me of 2023 Ruler. Like where
It's
he's
just
like,
yeah, exactly. That's what it's really nice to see a player in NA doing that where it looks precise. You know, the clicks are precise. He's limit testing the edge of his range, knowing exactly how much damage he needs to do, knowing what summoners he needs to like what resources he needs to burn. It's really nice to watch. And I think Busio has been playing way better, this last split since kind of last year even. He's definitely improved. So it's whether or not you think Sven, okay, so if they draft a safer lane, like today, like they give Zen Ezreal again, right? And they give Vulcan a roaming support, and just knowing that Sven's gonna just be chilling. I think that Masu Busio will be able to punish that way harder than TL did today.
I don't know that they can do that. And even if they do, I don't think that it matters. Like my point isn't that like FlyQuest aren't good. My point is like, why did FlyQuest lose to 100 Thieves and not make it to finals that split? It's because they had a lead in that game too. It's just they started to take bad fights, which is something we
Yeah.
never saw from FlyQuest last year. And I think it's been a problem. Like it hasn't cost them a game yet because we're playing best of ones, but like I do think it could cost them games against C9. Especially when
could.
C9 are
Well,
just like clean.
it can cost them one game, which is the no, again, the annoying thing. In a best of 3, I think it's
Yeah.
hard. I think it's hard because then you do have champ pool diversity becoming a factor and all that.
I actually think they're favored in a best of 3 just because they have like their champ pool is much more like Cloud9 currently, like you said, have a specific meta that they're playing and they're just playing it over and over and over again. And then like you get rid of the Ezreal MF and all of a sudden you're stuck on a Kai'Sa, you're stuck on like a Xayah, which might not fit the way that you've been playing lane, the way that you've been playing the map. All of a sudden you have to just fight different fights and like maybe they're not as good. It's yet to be seen, but yeah.
That's what I like. It's like it promotes more flexibility, right? And I think FlyQuest has that flexibility. So the sort of like the joker, I guess, is the fact that C9 is coming into this match with they have no idea what FlyQuest really wants to do or what they want to play. It's going to be imagine being like a coach, I guess, and trying to prep for a team like FlyQuest. You have to do so many drafts. And the way that C9 likes to do draft prep is that they will, like they said, we have a couple options that we think they're going to go. And then we have these alternative, like, comp A, comp B, comp C that is supposed to address that. If you have to prep for potentially 7 different drafts that the other team has, it becomes exponentially harder to actually know your draft line. So it's way harder, I think, for them to prepare. And it's week 2, right? So or match 2. So it's always a little harder in best of ones when you have 2 teams to prep for. Obviously, it didn't. And this is actually a really hard week for them because they couldn't just gloss over the TL match either.
Yeah.
It's not like they were going against Dig and they're like, okay, we can kind of just draft normal and just kind of out hands, right? Like they probably had to prep significantly for TL, and then now he's going against Fly. So it's like just a heavy week for them. Like I definitely think there's some level of that, but then they're coming in confident. Like they got a really, really solid win. They definitely are a team that also plays off confidence. So I think
they've got
it's set up to be
of
a really good one.
confidence. They I don't know about this week of scrims, but last week of scrims, I think they lost 1 game.
Yeah.
The entire week against FlyQuest,
that's just how
against
C9,
Team Liquid. Like,
yeah, that's it. That's just how C9 is. Confident C9 is one of the scariest teams in the league. Like if they come in thinking like they are better and they will win, they're just gonna roll over teams, and it's kind of that's the terrifying thing. That on the other hand, FlyQuest obviously has a lot of confidence. Inspired even said something about that where he's like, when we lost 100 Thieves, it wasn't that they were better than us. We just played really bad. I think that's the mentality that they have is if we don't kill our own chances of winning, we're going to beat every team here.
Yeah, I think they're not. I think a peak form FlyQuest might be better, but I just think right now Cloud9 are peaking a little bit higher in my vision. But we did talk a lot about how maybe in a best of 3 I would favor FlyQuest, and in a best of 1 I'd favor C9. You want to talk about the best of 1 versus best of 3? Is it great?
Yeah,
or
I
is
think
it just bait.
No, it's straight garbage. Like best of 1 is terrible. There's no. This isn't even a dispute. I think it's just terrible.
I'm disputing it. I'm gonna tell you why it's great, but you go first.
Okay. I just think it's terrible for viewership. It's boring. It creates a lot of the problems that we knew existed, but weren't as like it wasn't as in our face. Like so when you watch 5 or 6 different teams play in the same day, and you see basically 4 of the same rough comps, it gets kind of boring. You're watching different people run the same iterations of the same champs, same comps over and over. And so the telling point is that, like my girlfriend just started watching League about a year ago, doesn't know very much about comps, drafts, any of that. And she's constantly saying, like, why do they keep playing the same comps? This is so boring. And that's not a viewer experience you want the average person having. Right? Especially, and she's a casual League player, so she has certain champs that she loves seeing when it's, oh, they're playing Aurora. That's my favorite champion, right? Like, that's what you want to have more across the board as a league. It's more viewer friendly. And so I think best of 1 just really detracts from that. You're going to see Azir, you're going to see, the Renekton Gnar top lane. You're going to see the same stuff over and over and over across every team. It doesn't even feel like you're watching different teams if you don't care about any of them.
Well, here's my counter argument. I'm a Shopify fan. I'm not like, okay, I'm doing interviews for like the LTA. If I didn't, I'm not watching every single game. I'm watching Ludwig co-stream Shopify, and I'm not watching all the other games. So like, I'm not watching the same comps over and over and over again. I'm watching my team play on Saturday. I'm watching my team play on Sunday. I'm watching my team play on Monday. I would much rather see a lot of games of my team rather than see them once a week. And that's like part of the reason why they wanted best of 1s was that each team would be able to, instead of thinking like, oh, we have LTA twice a week, where it's like, okay, well, if Shopify plays Saturday, I'm not tuning in Sunday. And so, like, from viewership perspective, if you just follow a team, if you're a Vulcan fan and he plays on Sunday, you're not watching Saturday. If he plays on Sunday and doesn't play any other day, you're not watching the other days. And so for players, for the vast majority of fans who are not watching every single game, in the past it used to be where like everyone just watched all the games, and it's no longer that way.
Like, yeah. That's fair. But would you rather watch your team play 2 separate days, but play the exact same comp against the exact same comp twice? Or
we
watch a
literally
best
saw
of
that.
3?
We ran the same 5 champions week 1. The Nefiri, like Mbessa comp, we ran that 2 times in a row. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Do you want to see that, or do you want to see your team play one day, but play a best of 3 and it's a little more hype and you see different stuff? You get to see that player play more games in that day.
So I'm just not going to answer that because that goes against my point. But here's the counter argument: would I rather like see my team once and I have to wait 6 days between their play, or see them play against
Yeah.
different teams? Like, let's say for example, we play against FlyQuest and we get stomped, and it's like, oh man, that kind of sucked. Whereas, we played against FlyQuest, but we also played against Dignitas, and those games were a lot
Yeah.
closer, and we had a much better
It-
like. Yeah.
This is a personal preference type question because there's no right or wrong answer for this one.
No,
It's like
there's a right or wrong
traditional
answer, man.
sports.
Best of three is so
Well,
much
traditional
better.
sports like let's say like football versus basketball, right? You might see if you're a Lakers fan, you'll watch your Lakers play like twice a week sometimes, right? Like it's more frequent. Or baseball, it's like 3 times, 4 times a week. But if you're like a football fan, you see your team once.
Yeah.
And that one game really matters that week. And it's like a big thing that's kind of built up and hyped. That's the problem. So that's what's lacking. If you're going to do best of threes, it needs to be built up like that. It needs to be this sort of event versus like, oh, it's another game this week, right? Like it's always been the problem. And I think if you watch Valorant esports, like Valorant does that really well, where it's a best of 3 every week, but they really set these narratives of like, okay, Sen versus 100 Thieves is a big match, and it's like it's a best of 3, it's hype. Everyone's like kind of looking for, different maps. It creates that narrative a lot better, and they're used to it. And a lot of Valorant fans, when they watch League or they hear about League, like, wait, what do you guys went to best of ones? How can you even play like that? It's like so foreign to other games fans that we do best of 1 because they're like, it feels unfair. Like, what if you just have one bad game? Now it's out. You're done. Like that week is over.
I mean, think about it. 100 Thieves would
matchup is
have not
over.
made it to finals if it was best of 1, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think best of 1s favors bad teams because it creates more volatility in outcome. Like 100% win rate or 0% win rate versus like, like I even think the best of 2 alternative that NACL tried doing last year was actually a better alternative to that, because if you go 1-1, at least you're just tied, and that sort of does create disparity between the top and the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you can have a lot of just unlucky, but it's very rare that the better team will go 0-2 against a worse team. That's just like doesn't happen. So I just think best of 1s this has always been the problem with it. You're gonna get fluky games where like some team now I will say Lion as a team I severely underestimated. I did not think they'd be in the position they're in, and props to them, they've done really well. I don't know if they'd be there if it was best of 3s. Like I don't know if they'd be like.
I mean, okay, who did they beat? They beat the bottom 4 teams. Who did they lose to?
Right.
Top 14. Like there was always or almost always going to be one team that was going to have 3 wins out of the bottom 4 because it would have been better than the other 3, right? And I was hoping it would be Shopify. Obviously, we lost to them.
I was going to use Shopify as an example. Do you think Lion would beat Shopify in a best of 3?
I don't know, because the next day we like really came back and played much better against FlyQuest, and like we could have actually won that game. But who knows? Maybe it was an off day, and like we would have played game 2.
Well, it wasn't even off. It was an off game. Like, and they didn't look terrible. Yeah. It was just kind of fluky. It was like it felt fluky. They were like some of these fights were so close, and I was like, if this is a best of 3, I honestly think Shopify probably could have come back that day and just won the next 2. Like, they're such a good team on paper. Like,
that's fair.
I don't know. I just refuse to see best of 1 as a somehow better competitive parity. Like, it's not as competitive. Like, there's no way you could say best of 1 is as competitive as the best of 3. And it really just favors teams that prep for the one game. Maybe if you want to if you're a lower ranked team and you want to throw something out there, you might catch a higher ranked team like unawares, and you only have to beat them that one time. And that's how a lot of teams in the past have approached best of 1. Is like, if you're the last place team in the league and you're going against the first place C9 team, what do? You draft something crazy and you hit them level 1 and just try to coin flip the game.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what they tried doing today, right? They busted out the Nefiri, and they had a super large gold lead, and just they ended up throwing against 100 Thieves, but
can't close. But
yeah,
but that's how you do it, right? That's how you get a little bit of a chance. If they had now, let's say like if Dig or DSG had drafted the C9 comp, like, you think they're gonna do anything with that? Like, just straight try to outlane and like play Vi? Like, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think anyone should be. I think Inspired has a Vi pass. No one else does. Like, it's just.
So. Honestly, if Blabber's win rate on Vi is actually pretty abysmal, like, just put the man on Maokai again or something. Like,
yeah. Yeah,
it's kind of a meme.
It is.
And I don't understand it, because it's not like he's bad. He's not like actually bad at the champion. He just like somehow doesn't win on it.
It's a scrim thing. Like they
Yeah.
dominate using Vi, and they're like, "Okay, we figured out how to play Vi," and they go on stage. They're like, "Oh, we never had that issue before." It's like, okay, we figured it out.
Yeah.
Okay, we never had that
I think
issue before. It's
it
like,
was last week he did the failed Q over the wall, and I was like, "Oh,
yeah,
man, like,
around the blue buff on top
that's
side.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's so bad. You can't do that." Like,
yeah. I think you've won me over with the best of one arguments. I think that there's the reasons. Okay, the reasons for best of ones, seeing your team play more often, is like complete BS because you can always stream your scrims. You can always do more
mhm,
content. You can always have a podcast. You can always do so many things so that you
yeah,
are in the eye of the public that you don't need best of ones. You can just play once a week. You can play twice a week. Now, I prefer basketball. I watch a lot more basketball than I do football
mhm,
because I like my teams play more often, whatnot, and like
yeah,
it's easier to keep track of my team when I'm seeing them 3, 4 times a week rather than like, oh, we play once a week. And like also football games are more of like a community event. Like watching football by yourself and watching football with friends and family is like such a big difference. Whereas basketball, it's
sure.
kind of the same in my
Yeah, yeah,
opinion,
yeah.
or it's
Actually,
closer.
that's a good point. That's a good point. I definitely know more people that would just enjoy watching a basketball game by themselves, like grab some food, just chill and
Yeah,
watch the game. Like football definitely feels like because it's such a long thing. There's so many long breaks in between plays, and like you sort of need something to fill that time. And if you're
exactly. Yeah,
alone, you're sitting there just like, all right, man, like
yeah.
we're
I
waiting for
know.
this timeout. Like,
Yeah, it's like
uh,
you go from one timeout to the next timeout to like, oh, 2 minute
yeah,
warning. And so this is, oh
yeah,
my
yeah.
god, yeah,
Then the
it takes
halftime and
forever.
all, yeah, it's a lot.
And like between every play is so long because like you have like 45 seconds right to get in line and get information like the ball. It's like and then
Sure.
oh false start. Okay, now another 45 seconds. Whereas basketball is like
Yeah.
pretty
Let's go
much
to
the
a quick
ball's
commercial
moving.
break. Like,
Yeah,
yeah. No, I agree. I agree. No, so the community thing is a big one. I think with League, it should be it like you said, if they do best of threes, and let's dream of the ideal world for competitive League of Legends esports, right? It would look like watching LCK, they do best of threes the right way. Like it's epic feeling. You know, the
yeah,
intros that they have, they get the crowd involved. Like there's always the chance, like for both teams. It's like it doesn't matter who's playing even. Like these, it's like it doesn't have to be like T1 Gen G. It's like two of the lower ranked LCK teams, and they still have crowd chants going for both at the beginning. And it's like epic music. They have this whole intro showing all the players. Like they just need to have stuff like that for LTA and like and like you said, do content during the week. Like every team should have to excuse me, stream one set of scrims. There's no world you can convince me as a professional player or coach that you were giving so much away in one set of scrims that it's ruined your prep for the week. That is insane.
yeah.
There's no
Also,
way.
did
Like
you see what they did with Peanut? Like he just won his 500th game. Not played his 500 game. He won his
one.
like some
Yeah, it's
careers don't even
insane.
get to 100. He won
It's
500.
insane.
And
Yeah.
like, dude, the celebrations and like everything, it
Yeah.
was a whole event. Whereas like we get like, oh, he just played his thousands game, and it's like a
It's a
little
pop-up.
pop up, yay! And it's like, dude, the amount of
By the
like
way, yeah.
cherishing that we
No.
have for players
That's what
compared
I'm
to
saying.
LCK.
Like LCK has made the league feel like a sports league with like legacy and like they talk about the stuff they highlight it. The intros, the new LCK intro for this season is insanely epic. It's so good. Where they have like
Yeah,
every player and every team has a special slogan as a hashtag so you can like tag it and stuff. Like it's so well done. Like they just and it's not hard. None of this stuff is hard.
it's just it's a question of like where do teams put in the effort? Like every team has a content team, right? I think C9's content team are doing great job.
Yeah.
I think other teams are like, well, if we're gonna make content, what type of content do we want to make? And it's always a question of like, how much resources can we get from the players? How often can we get the players
Yeah.
to do stuff with us? And how often it's like, if you're a team like Dignitas and you're like, oh, we're gonna do exactly what Cloud9 does, it's not gonna work for you because no one's gonna watch a 45-minute podcast of like Kaney
Right.
and Shaden talking. Whereas they're gonna watch Sven and Vulcan talking for 45 minutes, And it's like not
Yeah.
every team has a Meteos. And so it's like you have to figure out your own thing. And whenever you try to like cookie cut and be like, we're gonna do a docu series and we're gonna do this because that's what worked 6 years ago. It's like, no, you kind of have to be creative. You kind of have to like
You're
push
yeah.
the envelope. And like when you look at LCK, you look at the teams are doing, like they're always pushing the envelope. They had like T1 for the longest time had custom like theme songs and like
Mhm.
anthems for their players. Like each one had a song about him. And it's like, where is that in North American League of Legends? Where is the creativity for things
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah. I think FlyQuest has done really well the last year. Like integration of like a mix of like humor with
Yeah.
memes and then getting Basil to do a lot of the stuff for their
Mhm.
content. Like it's amazing. Art, they've integrated a lot of art. Like
Mhm.
they're reaching out to independent artists to like do stuff for characters, like they've done a really good job of it. So like when the whole Studio Ghibli thing was going around, right? Like the AI Studio
They got
Ghibli
a
stuff,
yeah.
they
They got
got an actual
artists.
artist to do a
Yeah.
Ghibli version of all their players. Like, hey, this is real. Like, we paid an artist. Follow her. And it's like this is like stuff like that. Yeah, teams obviously you need resources to do stuff like that, but also it's like you were saying, you got to identify what your brand should be and like what you need to lean into. Um, I expected a lot more from Shopify in terms of like maybe getting involved more with like Ludwig Moist stuff. Like, I don't know. Like, what do they? I don't have an idea for them, right? I'm not. That's not my thing. But like there's just such an opportunity there that I feel like isn't being tapped. And it was cool seeing Ludwig show up today, but like, why couldn't they have arranged it so that like Ludwig and Toast were both there and like imagine them co-casting the game. That would be so
That would have been pretty
it'd be
epic, actually.
hilarious. It would
Yeah.
have been hilarious. Like both owners talking trash to each other, like in the middle of the game, co-casting their games. Like that would have been like stuff like that. We need more see more of that. And then you merge both audiences. Like it's I don't know. There's so many missed opportunities, it feels like, when they've set up a scenario where it should be doable.
Yeah, I think even like bigger than that, it's like you have this audience of like there are people who play League of Legends who don't pay attention to like LoL esports or like NA
Yeah.
esports. And it's like,
Well,
how do you
90%.
get yeah, how do you get those people? And it's like, well, you go to them where they're actually paying attention. Like
Mhm.
they're watching all these like memes on TikTok. They're watching all these things. Why don't you like try to incorporate? They're watching Ludwig go to Japan. Like
Yeah.
it's not hard for Ludwig to be like incorporate his just like a phone call, be like, yo, I saw your scrim, while he's in Japan, be like, yo, I saw your scrim. And I was like, all of a sudden people are talking about the league team or the Halo team who's doing like
Mhm.
amazing. There's just
Mhm.
so many things of like, do you watch like the full squad guys where they go around, they're like, three of us know the word, one of us doesn't, one of us the imposter. And it's like, they have to like give hints about what the like word is. Like it might be a celebrity. It might be like, who's like Zendaya, for example, and they give hints, and one of them might be like Spider-Man, one of them might be like girl, and like one of them doesn't know who it is. And
Yeah.
the idea is like you say words about it until eventually you have to vote out one person who you think is the imposter, and if you vote out the wrong person, you lose. Like I think it could be so easy to do stuff like that with League of Legends. You'd be like, okay, who's the imposter, and like the champion might be Rise, and like you have to. I think it's a cool way of like merging what is popular with the same time merging the people's like interest with League of Legends. And like then people are like, oh,
Sure.
these people are fun. They do stuff, and then I want to watch them play. That kind of thing.
Yeah. I think LTA's had a couple of good pieces I've liked recently too. They did the
The Pokemon
what
one?
Pokemon would you eat? That
Yeah.
was hilarious. Like the little stuff like that is like so simple in design, but it's actually funny. Like it actually made me smile because like, oh, that's like some of these players have like funny responses. Their personality starts to come through a little bit. Like that's what you want to do. Just highlight who these people are. And yeah, I agree. Like if you're an org, that's your responsibility to your players too, to like put them in positions where they can do stuff like that. And then players just have to like be willing to go along with it.
And they have
But
to stream. Like
they have to stream. They have to stream. At this point, there's no excuse because like every single time, I used to be sort of on the other side of it where I was like, like people don't realize how much work that pro players put in and all that. But in reality, if you compare again, if the comparison's always there of like League of Legends to Valorant, every single Valorant pro is streaming every day. Like they all stream. There's no reason you could say like the workload difference is like, oh, League can't do it. You know?
yeah, I mean,
And
Bwipo,
yeah,
Thanatos, and Loki are streaming right now, which is great.
yeah.
But like, here's the thing: people keep complaining about streaming. Like pros, like, oh, it's gonna take away from my practice. You know that Trophy streams like multiple times a week. You know
Yeah,
Faker has
Faker
his
streamed,
entire
yeah.
career streamed. You know, like every
Yeah.
single T1 member is streaming, and you go, you know that. You know why? Because you go watch his stream. You're actively
Yeah.
watching Chovy streams and Chovy VODs, and then you're like, oh, but I can't stream because it's bad practice. Like,
Yeah.
come on,
No,
man.
it's ridiculous. And then you watch tier 2 actually. Most of tier 2 streams. Like, why does that stop when you get to tier 1? I don't know. Like, I agree. It's all excuses at this point. There's no actual real answer that they can give that is justifiable. I saw that quote from Optic Hex, which I love.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like if you're not winning, you better be making content because you can't do you can't do neither. Like, it's okay if you're winning everything and you say, you know what, I don't have time to stream. Fine. If Faker literally said, I don't have time to stream anymore, I just need to focus on winning. I don't think anyone would give him crap about it. Like, but if you're not there and you're not showing consistent improvement, then you got to do something to show benefit for signing you as a player. Like, I think it's just detrimental for the entire scene because you're right. Like, more fans would be fans if they actually saw these people streaming, putting out TikToks, like doing stuff. There's still clearly a ton of viewership for League of Legends on social media. Like, some of these, content creators that are still making League content they're still blowing up on Instagram, on TikTok, and all that stuff, like Reels. There's still very, very high streaming numbers. And I know a lot of the doomerism around League as a just visible entity, like, oh, League streams have really died off. Of course they have compared to like 2020, but there are still hundreds, if not thousands, of like content creators that create League content all the time that do very well. Like, they're all
I bet
partnered and
you if
everything.
if like Sniper had a TikTok and like he would be posting like league highlights and like highlights of him and like throughout his days and like
Yeah,
stuff like that, just 100 Thieves games would have like five, six
yeah,
hundred people extra watching. You do that with every single
100%.
like every
Yep.
single pro player, all of a sudden you just got like your 50K that you lost, like maybe not that
Yep.
much, but
No,
you get the
100%. Like,
point.
Sniper's a funny guy. Like, he should
Yeah.
honestly, Sniper, if he ever sees this, like, Sniper as a person, as an individual, should invest in just getting his own editor and just pumping out content every month.
I called him
Like, the
out
investments.
actually. He
Yeah.
said, "Oh, players should stream more." And I was like,
Yeah.
does like these players include Sniper?" And he started laughing. I was like, "Yeah, yeah, me too."
No, it's true. But like, I don't think a lot of players even realize that you don't have to do this yourself, right? Invest like $1,000 and just hire the editor and just like have them pump stuff out. You're also helping yourself in your career.
Yeah, your
Like, you
org
get paid.
should do honestly like
Your org should do it, but if they don't, right? Like, some orgs have more resources than others,
yeah.
but it benefits the org. Like, orgs should invest in that, right? Like, it would cost them less than $10,000 to get all their players an editor for like 6 months and just see what happens. Like, just see what happens. It's either good or it's nothing.
Yeah. I think that might be like the step one. Like if an org said what's like the first thing that we should do, I
Mhm,
think it would be hire an editor and make sure you're like they're streaming. And even if they're not streaming, like get the highlights of their solo
mhm.
queue games and just open up a TikTok and YouTube account for them and Instagram and just like pump out content every single day.
Yeah. Yeah, and it doesn't have to be, like, insanely edited and all that. It could literally be Sniper every single time he streams, guaranteed he has a highlight reel clip at least once, right? At
Yeah.
least once. He's gonna have some crazy outplay, and you just clip that, put it on TikTok. You could in one stream, you could get enough for, like, an entire week,
Yeah.
and you're done. That's it. You just edit all those clips, you just pump them out one a day, like, you're done. You don't have to invest more than a few days. Like, I just yeah, the whole barrier to entry for this is so low, and the fact that they refuse to cross it is, like, just insane to me.
Yeah. Well,
But
that
yeah,
is the
oh
state
well.
of North
It's
American League
it's
of
where we're at,
Legends.
where we've been. At least I do think that the overall sentiment towards it has shifted. Whereas, like, 5, 6 years ago, I think the excuse that they gave, like, "Oh, I'm just too busy," was sort of more accepted. Now it's just like everyone fan wise, even like, no, this is not a legitimate excuse. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Right.
All right. I think that covers all the
Yeah.
topics. Um,
Cool. All right. Well, looking forward to the most hype match of the split tomorrow. Um,
Shopify versus Team Liquid. Yeah, me too.
the LTA toilet bowl, man. I can't
The
wait. Like,
update the
and
bowl.
and no offense to the players, like, I love a lot of those guys. I just obviously there's it's objective that you are the two worst teams in the league. So just embrace it. I hope there's memes about it today. I hope both orgs like tweet at each other or something. I want to see something.
Yeah, I
Show
want to
me
see
some fire,
DSG
man.
win just because of Disguised, but
Yeah.
I genuinely think they're just not good enough to win to finish a game. Yeah,
It's gonna be the League of Throws. Like, who throws last?
yeah, yeah. Dig Baron. It could be Dig Baron.
Right. There's a lot of factors actually.
Yeah.
Like,
They could throw
who's
the
gonna
first Baron and then catch the second one. You never know.
right? Right? Is Abedabi gonna TP into Baron Pit by himself? Like, we don't know.
Oh my god, man.
We don't know.
I'm
All
gonna make a
right. Good
highlight
talking
reel out of
to you.
that.
Yeah. We'll catch up again next week. Have a
All
good
right,
rest of the weekend.
you too. Take care.